The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, at this very hour, members of the Pictou Landing First Nation are gathering with their supporters and friends at the band office to walk together the kilometre to the bridge in solidarity and hope for the closing on deadline of Boat Harbour. In the documentary, There's Something in the Water, Michelle Frances Denny speaks of the sorrow her family and community have endured over Boat Harbour for 52 years, and she says, "Everybody has to believe in something. I believe in January 31st, 2020, ASEG." Now, on Tuesday, I asked the Premier to reaffirm that belief, and the answer he provided was not the unequivocal affirmation that the people of Pictou Landing are seeking. So I ask him again, will he say plainly that not one drop of effluent will flow into Boat Harbour after January 31st next year?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for the question. I also want to recognize, Mr. Speaker, the people of Pictou Landing who have been tremendous, Mr. Speaker, in dealing with this issue that is now decades old, Mr. Speaker. There's a piece of legislation that has been passed in this House unanimously that has that closing on the 31st of 2020, Mr. Speaker, and there's no other piece of legislation here to change that.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party.
Mr. Speaker, 1,607 days ago, the Boat Harbour Act was passed with all party support. And in the course of the debate about that legislation, the current Minister of Labour and Advanced Education said on the government's behalf, "We believe that 5 years is a reasonable time to close Boat Harbour," and I will table the Hansard of his remarks. And yet here we are, with Northern Pulp's focus report released yesterday, with hardly any closer to a real solution. Well, I want to ask the Premier, if his government believed 5 years was a reasonable time frame to get this done, why, with just 119 days left now before the deadline, is the whole Northern Pulp situation a matter of such uncertainty and anxiety and pressure?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, one of the challenges facing with the issue is for decades, Mr. Speaker, successive governments continue to be a moving target when it came to the mill and to Boat Harbour. This House has put together a piece of legislation that was passed with a deadline in it. The mill has the responsibility to look for an EA, Mr. Speaker. That is before the regulator. It has nothing to do with me. If he wants to know the length of time the mill is taking to get in, that's a question for the mill operator. The reality of it is, I've made a commitment to clean up Boat Harbour. We've set aside money to finance the cleanup of Boat Harbour, Mr. Speaker, and we will do so.
The Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party on his final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, finally this week, after all this time, an application for an environmental approval was received from the company, and yesterday it became available for public scrutiny, and as has been suspected all along, it says there it is not possible to build a new facility in 4 months. It says, in fact, that it'll take 21 months for the facility's construction. And so, Mr. Speaker, at this moment, two paths are diverging. One where the Boat Harbour effluent facility stays open, and one where it is closed. In addition to the people of Pictou Landing, thousands of people who work in the woods and in this mill and other mills and on the water, and who live in the rest of the communities of Pictou County and beyond, are looking to the Premier in this moment, not for an evasion or a bureaucratic diversion or for a shrug, but for leadership towards an honourable resolution of this situation. What does the Premier have to offer?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, again, I want to thank the honourable member for his question. He would know there's a regulator in this province, Mr. Speaker, that deals with environmental assessments. That is not the Premier. The honourable member know that. The company, like every company who wants an environmental assessment in this province, has a responsibility to do the work to ensure that it goes to the regulator. They'll assess it. They'll base it, the facts, on science, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member will know there was one put in before that was rejected by the regulator. I have no idea what the regulator will do with this piece of information. They are working to put it together, but it will be based on the facts around science, Mr. Speaker. That's what will take place.